Radio, a constantly changing art form. London.
The 2-hour ultimatum had been delivered to Germany.
Rock and roll. Prairie Home Companion.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
From that first broadcast, a medium that has been pruned, honed, trimmed, winnowed, chiseled, bonsai'd, and deposited here today, ready to be moistened with the watering can of evolutionary dew. This is the Dennis Miller Show.
Hey, folks, welcome to the Dennis Miller Show. I am the aforementioned Mr. Miller. Well, what a nice visitor. Joining me in the New York studio for the entire hour, friend of show, children's author. Already Lynn has called in from Indiana and sang your praises in an earlier part of the show.
Beautiful.
How brilliant. She says, we need heroes right now, and Gene's book's always depict heroes. And a funny guy. I mean, periodically we will get, Gene's sort of the guy who sneaks in, does a weird voice, and I'll often think, God, what a weird accent that is. And invariably Christian will say, you know, that's Gene, and I always forget. Gene Barretta, a.k.a. Gene in Philly. Welcome back to the show, Gino.
So nice to be here, Dennis.
There we go. I remember that one. It's Percy Pinkerton from Nick Fury and his Howling Commandos. And who's the dish with you, Gino?
The only reason I'm here today is to get a few points scored with the wife who's sitting over in the corner.
All right. Well, nice to have you join us. And let's see, Gino, what's up in your life, baby? In between books? You in the middle of a book? What do you do when you don't do books? What do you do?
I don't do anything other than books. It's just a full-time thing. So I'm working on 3 right now at a time. I'm writing one for another illustrator on George Washington Carver. I'm illustrating one for another author, and I'm writing one and illustrating it on Presidents, a new series I'm starting on the Presidents, which I can't say too much about at this point.
Well, Gino, it's interesting your mind works that way. You're really a left brain, right brain guy, right? Because they're 2 different talents, as driving his golf ball and putting, you know what I mean? There's some great hitters of the ball. People can't putt and vice versa. But the ability, what came first? Were you a drawer when you were a kid?
Yeah, I mean, my mom said I drew a big purple elephant on the wall near my crib when I was 3, so I've been doing that since, before I could walk, I think. So that, the more right-brained, I guess, is the more abstract brain. That came first, and then I had to learn to rein it in a little bit so I could make a career out of it and put a little practicality into it, something my wife Leslie has helped me do. She's helped me rein in the abstract thinking a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it must be an interesting moment for a mom to come in and think, oh, my God, the kid's ruined the wall. Hey, wait a second. That's marketable.
That's exactly who my mom was with both my brother and myself. She just supported us full tilt in whatever we pursued in the world of art. So we've got to give a big thanks out to her and her memory. And
what's her name?
Rosanna.
Rosanna?
Yeah.
Beautiful. And, listen, once you see the creative Gene in the kids, you can never believe these stories when you go back and watch, like, Gershwin's father saying, forget it, I want you to work in the dry goods store or whatever, all those stories. You always think, God, if the kid exhibits anything, you got to fan the ember.
Yeah, and with my son, I don't know where he's going to go yet, so I feed him lots of different things and see what he bites on. I don't push him too far in any area.
How old is Gino?
He's 9. I like the N.C. Wyeth and Andrew Wyeth philosophy where don't get too, they didn't give them art lessons until they were 16. They wanted to see what they would do on their own, how they would develop their own identity first, then they start to give them the more technical trainings, and once they saw they were serious about it.
And you tell me at this point you're thinking stevedore, right?
Or humidor.
No, what is he exhibiting in the way of
he's got a real
interest, let's say, as opposed to talents?
Well, aside from playing Wii and Pokemon, he's got a real knack for music. We noticed that early on with him. He was the kind of kid who, at age 3, we'd be playing the old black and white Mickey Mouse cartoons, and they all start the same way, the big face of Mickey and the sunburst, but they all started with 4 or 5 bars of a different theme. And he would know within 2 bars, no, not this one, and he connected right away. He's got a great sense of rhythm, and so we'll see if he goes in that direction.
Do you find it vaguely incestuous that Goofy, a dog, has a pet, Pluto, who's also a dog?
Well, you know what it is? It's like a Planet of the Apes thing. Pluto hasn't yet evolved, so Goofy's keeping the man down.
It's a time-space wormhole. Of course, you're right. What sort of shape's Philly in, Gino? Who's running it now, and is it in any good shape?
Oh, I hardly pay attention anymore.
Oh, well, you are an artist. What about the
Leslie?
tough wife over there? Lester, is it going to hell in a handbasket, or is it good?
It's getting better.
All right. Yeah. Who's in charge?
Well, that's a good question.
Oh, okay. Well, a mysterious wife. We'll ask her about it on the other side of this. This is the Dennis Miller Show. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show. Joining us, Gene from Philly for the entire hour. Gene Barretta. His website, Gene, G-E-N-E, Barretta, B-A-R-R-E-T-T-A.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Gene Barretta. We got Margot in New Jersey on the phone for Gene. Hey, Margot, how are you?
How are you?
Hey, Margot, Dennis Miller here. I'm with my friend Gene. You want to ask him a question?
Yes. I substitute in public schools, elementary schools specifically, and recently I was in a 6th grade reading class, and the book that the kids were reading was Swallowing Stones, about this young fellow that accidentally shoots someone. He's in the forest.
That's the Cheney autobiography.
Yes. And it ends up the young fella is dating this man's daughter. He shoots this man, and he ends up dating this girl. She becomes his girlfriend. So I'm thinking, for 12-year-olds, this is such a, I think, a difficult topic to comprehend, or maybe I'm very naive. And I think, maybe this is contributing to why kids are more suicidal in junior high and high school, if they're surrounded of reading material like this.
It's a grim time to be a kid, Margot. I appreciate it.
I know, it's tough.
There's no innocence about it. Let's face facts. From age 6 on, a lot of them are locked into those video games. It always seems like a tight hallway to me that they're walking down, offing people at rings of Columbine. I can't believe when people don't say that they see some association between some of these killings in those video games. And then when they do get to the popular lore, there's the saw and the hostel and the chainsaw. Yeah, it's a rough time to be a kid. I don't even know. I think, honest to God, if my kids were that young, thank you, Margot, in New Jersey, I'd be homeschooling. Gino, that's what I love about your books, like the last one, Timeless Thomas, How Thomas Edison Changed Our Lives. What target age are you there for? And, it's good to have the kids' heroes not be anti-heroes. I like heroes being heroes.
Sure. Yeah, well, my books are all generally gauged to 4 to 9, 4 to 10, elementary school age. And they're generally nonfiction. They call it part of the institutional market, which is libraries and schools. And but I like to find a way to not make it a dry sort of textbook experience, and that's why I like doing picture books, because a lot of my sense of humor comes through in the pictures, so that the information can be there and be exact, and still keep it light and keep it engaging for kids.
Didn't you send me a drawing once of somebody superheating a city with farts?
That was Edison. That was your joke, and I illustrated it.
I couldn't remember why, but I still see it in my office hanging there, and it's so funny. I go, I know it's Gene, but I'm wondering what the hell led us to the point.
Well, you know why I got there? Because I told you this is one of my favorite facts about Edison, which has been proven. The last 3 years of his life, his entire diet was a pint of milk every 3 hours, and that's what sent him to his deathbed.
Right.
And you said, well, something about flatulence and everything, and it led to the
Was he not even doing the apple pie at that point? Just complete?
I don't remember the apple pie, but it was probably cigars and milk.
He always dug apple pie too. He would eat a piece of pie on the fly, I understand. But if you're just drinking milk, for God's sakes.
Yeah,
even cows have a bite of grass here and there. Let's go to Carl.
By the way, can I just say, do you remember you have a cameo in that book? There's a big city scene, and I've got you and Christian and Sarah, a little cameo in the window of one of the buildings. I remember that now. Much like Hitchcock, I try to make an appearance in every one of Gene Baretta's books. Carl, you're on with Gene. What's happening, Carl? You coming in this week?
Yeah, I'm going to see you tomorrow.
Beautiful, Carl. What's on your mind for Gino?
I hope you got the residuals nailed down on that cameo in Gene's book, by the way.
Nah, listen, that's one thing about Gene. He's a sweet guy, but you will get screwed on the back end.
I thought you were going to try and do a voice, Carl, and fool me.
Because I can't disguise my voice, so I decided that. Let me say this. I may or may not be Carl from New Hampshire during this call.
Hey, how was, by the way, before we get into the purpose of your call, what about Carvey the other night? Did he burn that place down?
Oh, my God. I want to talk about that tomorrow. Anyone who hasn't seen that show, you got to see that show. Carvey's. You guys were just unbelievable. And I'll tell you about Carvey backstage with my kids. He was just, you won't even believe it. He was too much.
All right. Yeah, keep it for tomorrow. Yes,
Can I just add that Leslie and I were at the Friday show in Atlantic City, and it was great. I didn't know Kevin Nealon's stand up at all, and he was really funny, and everybody was really great.
By the way, my watch class broke. Gino gave me a nice watch of beans and wieners, so I went to tighten it because it was a little loose on my thing, and the thing snapped. That's the only reason I don't have it on. I'll get a new one when I get home. What's on your mind, Carl?
Well, I just wanted to give Gino a couple of quick pointers on sitting in on the show because I've been in a couple times. First of all, Gino.
Yes, Yoda.
At some point, Dennis is going to ask you to go to a place called Area 51 in the CBS building to get him a bottle of water. Don't do it.
Gotcha.
And I also want to let you know that he leaves the studio by trap door underneath the moment the show is over, so don't be startled by that.
Okay. It's a pretty quick exit. I got that from Cosby. Cos used to say, I'll do 2.5, but I want the limo pointed towards the airport with the engine on.
Do I get to put the cape on your back before you leave, like James Brown?
The least hardest working man in show business.
Hey, Gino, we got to get the families together this summer, man, down there. I want that promise you're going to take me to the Jimmy Stewart Museum, right?
Jimmy Stewart Museum? That's not in Philly.
Come on, it's in Pennsylvania somewhere.
I've never heard of it.
Indiana, Pennsylvania. Isn't that where he was born? I think it's in Indiana.
No, but come to the city. I give great informal historical tours of the city.
All right, Carl.
You really nailed who the mayor of Philly is, Gene. You really know a lot about it.
He had a stranglehold on that. You know, he connects. Thank you, Carl, New Hampshire. He collects Philly political memorabilia. He just cold cocked me with Frank Rizzo's nightstick.
Whoever it is, it's played by Gal Gordon.
Gal Gordon. Did you ever see, Gino, you've seen the famous picture of Rizzo exiting the dinner that night? You don't follow politics. Have you seen it, Mrs. Jean? There's a famous picture of Frank Rizzo when he was the head of when he was the mayor of Philadelphia, and he's leaving a political smoker or something. He's got a full board tux on, he's got a cummerbund on, and his pocket's not completely, his coat's not completely buttoned, and he has a what's the word for a little nightstick? I can't remember. It's not a full bore. Blackjack. He's got a blackjack sticking. It reeks of power. It makes Bill Daley look like he was Doug Henning. 866-509-RANT is our phone number.
By the way, the mayor of Philadelphia is Michael Nutter. I think that would be a name that I would remember if I'd ever known that before this instance.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say I didn't know it. I just said I don't really follow it much.
Well, they've had a few nutters in that marriage.
Sure.
I remember the one cat went in and he wanted to quell some local insurrection. He burnt down a city block. It was like Dresden.
Mayor Good. Yeah. The roof is on fire.
Philadelphia is the sort of city where the mayor does that, and then they name that block Wilson Good Block. That's how through the looking glass they've gone down there. All right, Gene in Philly is with us. Gene's website is GeneBarretta.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Gene Barretta. His latest book, Timeless Thomas, How Thomas Edison Changed Our Life. He'll stay with us for the entire hour. We got phone lines out the wazoo. Woo-hoo. John in New York, Marianne in Indiana, Kenny in Brooklyn. He's got a serious goal. We'll take you first, Kenny. I want to talk about this administration. Then we'll get to John and Marianne. Gene's with us for the entire hour. We'll take your phone calls, 866-509-RANT, 866-509-7268. This is the Dennis Miller Show.